I call that like a tear down moment,
Mm-hmm.
because I will tear down and dissect myself in order to know where's my opportunity for growth, and knowing that it's not just in one area. So it makes you have to think about everything. And I found that that's something like I still do to this day.
Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Is wrestling.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Wrestling is Life is Wrestling with Cody Diener. I am Cody Diener, and I am a professional wrestler. I'm a professional wrestling producer with TNA Wrestling. I'm a professional speaker traveling all across the nation, sharing my story and the life lessons I've learned along the way. I am a father to 4 awesome kids and a husband to a beautiful wife, and I am a podcaster. This is my podcast. If this is your first time coming to Wrestling is Life is Wrestling, welcome. If you're back for this next episode, welcome back. I'm super stoked for my guest this week, Tyler Tirva. Some of you are wondering who Tyler Tirva is. You've maybe not seen him on your TV screen, but maybe you actually have and you just didn't realize it. I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. But before we do, let me tell you about my sponsors. First of all, Rest When Dead Clothing. Head on over to restwhendead.ca and you can pick up the best merch in the weightlifting game, also in the wrestling game, because we have my signature series t-shirt that if you're watching this at Cody Diener podcast on YouTube, you can see behind me. You can also get your signature series Jody Threat t-shirt and your signature series Crazy Steve t-shirt. And I'm super proud and stoked to announce that we've got a new member of the Skeleton Crew at Rest When Dead, the one and only Jake something. I got some history with Jake, and that history is going to continue with Rest When Dead because he's awesome. He's jacked. He's the perfect person to join the Skeleton Crew because, I mean, he's bigger than any weightlifter that you're going to sign for a sponsorship deal, but he's also one of the best professional wrestlers in the world. So head on over to Rest When Dead Clothing on Instagram. You can see the big announcement that Jake is now part of the team, and you can also check out all their swag. As well, we've got CEO Fit, ceofit.ca to be exact. Head on over there and check out all the supplements. They got the best supplements in the game. They also have super cheap or even free shipping in some cases. And they got the best stuff, not just for your body, but for your brain. Where's that? That's at ceofit.ca. If you want to support me in this podcast, you can go to prowrestlingtees.com/Cody Diener, get yourself a t-shirt. You can go to cameo.com/Cody Diener, get yourself a personal cameo. If you're an indie promoter, want to book me on your wrestling event, head to bookcody@codydiener.com. That's my email. Hit me up. I'd love to wrestle on your show. If you'd like to bring me to your school or youth event to do a presentation, why don't you head on over to chrisgrayspeaks.com. That's Gray with an A. And you can learn all about my life as a professional speaker, traveling all over the place. You can also go to patreon.com/Cody Diener. That will help you support this podcast as well. I appreciate all my patrons that are over there. Anyone that's recently signed up for a free trial, this is a shout out to you. I appreciate you doing that and checking out all the bonus stories that I have with each and every guest as well. If you want the full part 1 and part 2 with this week's guest, Tyler Tirva, it's been up since the weekend because it's early and ad-free, all the raw footage, both video and audio of Tyler Tirva, as well as every single guest that I've ever had. Where do you get that? All in one place at patreon.com/Cody Diener. Now, before I bring on today's guest and before I start putting him over and telling you why he's on this show, I do want to just take a pause and say that recently I got to do something very, very cool, something that is near and dear to my heart, and that is related to what I said earlier about if you want to figure out and learn more about what I'm doing with my speaking, head on over to chrisgrayspeaks.com because I'm also a professional wrestler and a professional speaker, like I said. And I got to collide those two worlds recently in Las Vegas, Nevada. I visited some boys and girls clubs, 4 boys and girls clubs to be exact, in Southern Nevada. as part of TNA Wrestling's Making an Impact initiative, because TNA doesn't believe in just going into a community to entertain the community. They believe in making a positive impact in the community. So I got to go and share my story, my journey, my dream of wanting to be a professional wrestler, and encourage young kids at these clubs that they too can dream big, and spend some time with them, hang out with them, listen to their stories, take some pictures. And not only that, I got to surprise them at the end of my time that I spent with them by giving them free tickets to the upcoming Rebellion pay-per-view at the Palms Casino in Las Vegas, as well as the next day, the TV tapings on April 21st. So April 20th, April 21st, we'll be at the Palms in Las Vegas. And I got to surprise these kids who normally, in most of the circumstances of the kids at these clubs, they would never get a chance to go and see a wrestling event live. And now they're going to get that chance. And to see the smile on their faces when I told them they were going to get to go to the Palms for free, courtesy of TNA Wrestling. Whew, let me tell you that those smiles are gonna stick with me. So I'm just very proud to be a part of the company that, will send me to do these things, and really all just to put a smile on some kids' faces and really make a positive impact in the community. So thank you to TNA Wrestling, and thank you to the Boys and Girls Clubs in Southern Nevada for your hospitality. You guys are doing some amazing, amazing work in your respective communities, and I got to see that firsthand. It was such an awesome experience. Speaking of awesome experiences, I've had many, many, many with today's guest, Tyler Tirva. Now, if you're not familiar with Tyler Tirva, or you've never seen him on your TV screen, well, you probably have and didn't realize it. This guy has worked for the WWE on TV. He has worked for AEW on TV. He has worked for TNA Impact Wrestling on TV. He was in the Gut Check for Impact Wrestling on TV. This guy has been there. He has done that. And he's also been my road wife for over the last decade. I've spent more time on the road in a car traveling with this dude, with Tyler Tirva, my buddy, more than anybody in the last decade. I've got some road miles with my road wife, Tyler Tirva. And I will say this without a shadow of a doubt, not just because he is one of my best friends and not just because he's on today's show, but I've been saying this for years, and I will say it right now for the entire world to hear. I think Tyler Tirva should have a contract with a major wrestling company on television right now. So if this opens a few people's eyes to the awesome wrestler that Tyler Tirva is, wonderful. But it's also going to open the eyes to many people at the awesome person that Tyler Tirva is. Not just wrestler, but person. Why? Because this is Wrestling is Life. Is wrestling. And today we're going to jump into the life of Tyler Tirva, his passion for professional wrestling, share some funny stories of our time together in the ring and the lessons that we've learned, not just, him learning from me as a veteran wrestler, but the things I've learned from my buddy Tyler Tirva. And then we'll jump into some of the awesome things that he's done in the business. So if this is your first time learning about Tyler Tirva, take a screenshot of this podcast interview right now, this conversation, and hit me up at Cody Diener on social media, and hit up at Tyler Tirva, TYLER TIRVA. Hit him up on his social media as well, and let him know that you very much appreciate this conversation, because I think each and every one of you, whether you're a wrestling fan or not, are going to get something out of this very meaningful conversation, because we will learn that wrestling is life is wrestling, and there's nobody better to have a conversation with than the guy that I've had millions of conversations with up and down the road, my friend, and now soon to be yours, Tyler Tirva. Let's just start the show with us just laughing our asses off here, and people will be wondering why we're laughing. I have never started a show like this, but I think that is the beginning right now, is me and you laughing at what just happened, because so I'm sitting here with my buddy Tyler Tirva. I sent him a text before we jump on this call, and I say, "Hey man, wear your RWD shirt, because I am a Rest When Dead advocate VP." There he is, Tyler Tirva. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're seeing he's wearing his Rest When Dead shirt. He has just come to an agreement with Rest When Dead to join the skeleton crew, which I'm very happy for. And he misread the text message, and he's like, "Yeah, LOL, I can wear that shirt." And then he hops on the call with not a Rest When Dead shirt, but an RVD shirt, because he misread the text. For the people that are watching this on YouTube, please hold up your RVD shirt. Tirva, do you want to hold it up? Let's show everybody this wicked awesome. I think it's also very rare.
Just tell me, make sure I'm in frame so you get it all.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're in frame. There's the front. Now show the back, because this is, I think, the rare part of this t-shirt. Yes. Yeah. Now just go back a little bit. There it is. The whole damn show, RVD. The logo on the top for just our audio listeners is WCW. This is a Alliance WCW RVD shirt. Why the hell did you think I was going to ask you to wear an RVD shirt on my show? There's my opening question. Why do you think I would want you to wear RVD?
Well, at first I was hot because I was gonna put on my self tanner because I have a show tonight. So I was like, okay, I gotta do this. And then I was like, but I don't want to ruin my RVD shirt, because I was like, I might want to sell it. It's worth some money.
Yeah.
So I just got out of the shower and I was like, okay, I guess I can wear an RVD shirt for dinner. I'll do whatever. Sure, I'll wear my RVD shirt. And then it was so tight. Then the last time I put it on, like 4 years ago, it's like, this is gonna suck. I gotta sit here like all rigid.
Oh man, I love it. Have you met RVD?
Yeah, once.
Once. He is awesome. Like I've got to work with him. He's like super cool. I got to go to his, like, did I tell you the story? Which I probably am not going to share right now, but this will be like a teaser. Maybe we'll share it on my Patreon as a bonus story. I tell you about going to RVD's like company release party. Oh yeah, it was awesome. It was in Las Vegas. He started his marijuana business, and he had this party, and it was like everything you would think an RVD Las Vegas mansion weed party would be. It was that. And he's just awesome. He's just the coolest dude. Like, he's just RVD 24/7, and he's the best. So we're not going to wear the RVD shirt for this whole conversation, but we are going to put over RVD for at least the next 30 seconds. So yes, RVD rules.
And I'm probably going to do a Rolling Thunder in my next
one. Yes. You got a match tonight, do a Rolling Thunder in honor of RVD. So a lot of people that might not be familiar with Tyler Tirva or why I have you on the show. There's a couple things that I want to say publicly that I think I've stated them publicly, but I'm going to say them publicly in your presence because you deserve for me to say this. There's a number of reasons why you're on my show. One, the inside scoop is you're my road wife. We've been riding down the road. How long have we've been going to shows together? Like, I want to say, like, it's almost 10 years, if not maybe even that long or more. Like
09. I think we first wrestled in 2010. So 14 years.
Okay.
But we rode. Yeah, I saw it in like Facebook memories the other day that match came up that we had the first one.
Oh, I gotta ask you about that, but keep going. I don't want to lose our train of thought.
I was like, well, keep that one on the burner. And, but yeah, we rode together for almost a year, I think, before we had that match.
Okay, so it's longer than I thought. Time's a weird thing. So I've known you for a long time. You're one of my best friends. You're my road wife. Both your girl and my girl, my wife Rachel, both know that we're road wives. The thing that makes my wife the most angry about you being my road wife, well, she loves you, but it gets her hot because I'll come home and like, oh, how did it go? Oh, it's going well. We need to go get some avocados. And she's like, what? I go, well, Tirva said I got to eat more avocados. She's like, I've been telling you need to eat more avocados for like the last year. Oh, so now Tirva says that you're going to do it? I'm like, well, yeah. So my real life wife has heat with my road wife. So that's one, the reason I have you on the show. Two, I've said this publicly. I haven't said it on this podcast, so I'm gonna let all my listeners know. Hands down, the best matches that I've had in the last 5, maybe 10 years have all been with you. You're my favorite guy to wrestle. If I could wrestle only one person every night of the week and know that I'm going to be taken care of, but not just be taken care of, have kick-ass, awesome freaking matches, you're that person.
Thank you.
And third, you should be on television making a shitload of money right now. So if I can do anything to let that be known to the world and just say it publicly and let everybody know that Tyler Tirva is jacked, he looks like a pro, he wrestles like a pro, he's been doing this a long time, he can cut a promo, he can work circles around anybody else that I know. If anybody that I know right now that doesn't have a contract but should have a contract, it's you. So if for nothing else, that's really one of the main reasons I want to have you on here. And I know we're going to have a kick-ass conversation. So, I mean, all of that. So now that I've just put you over for the last 2 minutes, let's start where I wasn't expecting to start. The first time we wrestled, because I don't think I put you over super heavy on the first time we wrestled. So what? I didn't even remember this, and then when you told me about this, it just made me giggle. I'm like, oh, really? Yeah. I said that. So yeah, walk me through your memories of our first time wrestling.
Okay, so first time wrestling, it's definitely even one of my first main events ever. Might be my first title match I've ever had. And oh my God, so we have the match, we do the match, wrestle outside amongst the people. Seems like everything's going great. I think the random thing was I super kicked you in the back of the head.
Yes, I remember you. That was your idea, right? Or that was your idea? And I'm like, oh, that's different. That's unique. And I'm up for trying some different things. So I'm like, sure. You want to try this? Let's try it. Let's see how this goes. So yeah.
And then I remember being like, well, I hope I don't kill him out of fear. And then rest of the match goes good. Boom. I end up winning the belt. And then I'm so excited because this is the first heavyweight championship belt that I've ever won. I'm super excited. Come get to the back, go through the back. My trainer Danger Boy's like, hey, good job. Yeah, like it was pretty good. And I'm like still amped, like, oh, that was so good.
So I want to pause you. I just want to pause right here because we got like non-wrestlers listening to this. Most people aren't wrestlers.
Right.
Mick Foley talks about this feeling you're describing right now was like this post-match, like afterglow. This high, this adrenaline, this, oh my God, I just killed it. So like you just wrestled your first main event, won your first championship with somebody that you respect and you're going to have a good match with, and you've come to the back and you're like, you're in that like post-match afterglow of like, man, this high and this adrenaline that it's very hard to describe to a civilian that's never been in the wrestling ring, but that's kind of what you're experiencing when you come through the curtain, right?
Oh, flying high. Like, okay. There's not words for it. It's like you've had like 12 drinks. It's one of those nights where you can't get drunk. You've just danced like 17 songs in a row, but you're not sweating. You're like, what's going on?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then you're like, okay, now everyone's going to tell me how great I was, right? Yeah. And then I'm like, hey, Cody, thanks so much for the match. Oh, what'd you think? You're like, well, that could have been better. And then you walked right by me and then went and sat like at your bag in your chair. And here I am just like, I'm holding the belt and I'm like thinking I'm going to get all these positive words of affirmation of like, yeah, that was a great job, kid. These are the 1 or 2 things you could probably work on. No. Now I just feel like an asshole and I'm holding the belt. And like, I think I'm 2 years in at this point, around my 2-year mark.
Oh, you're fresh. Yeah.
Yeah. And So yeah, I thought it was great, and it wasn't bad. It just wasn't great, apparently.
Oh, I love it. So here's the thing, dude. Like I remember you telling me that like a couple years ago, like your memory of that, which I had forgotten. And the only thing that one of the things I could think of is, man, like that sounds like an asshole said that to you, and I'm the asshole in that situation. But I'm not typically like that. But I am like that and like brutally honest to people that are my friends or people that I respect. So the fact that in hindsight, when I think of, oh my God, I can't believe I said that to you, I wouldn't have said that to someone that I wasn't going to wrestle again, or I didn't consider a friend. Like, I'm very brutally honest with the people that I respect and someone who I know can handle it. So I think that's why I said that to you. And even though someone's maybe listening to this now going, wow, what the hell? Like that sounds like maybe not the nicest thing to say to your opponent that you just, put your life on the line with and had a match. I'm assuming that you learned something from that scenario. What did you learn other than, man, this Cody Diener guy can be an asshole sometimes?
I'm like, well, after Cody's decided not to be an asshole, maybe you could just not suck. That was my like first thing. Hey, Turbo, how about you just not suck? I still feel like I grew up wrestling wise. Like I was trained in a little more old school. Like when you make a mistake, like I don't know if I would have ever done well just being coached by saying like, hey, you did good, but like maybe think about doing this. Like I grew up playing sports, like playing hockey, playing basketball, track, all that. And so like I've had games where like we lost 4-2 in the finals and I was the kid that got yelled at, but I scored the 2 goals. So like I've always had people around me that had big expectations of me, which I think then I translated into myself. So like I never once got mad at you for saying that, because I just take it as cool. You're not there yet. Keep going. You're not there yet. Going. And that's how, like, to me, that's just how it all builds. Like, I hope that, like, looking back, I know we had one stinker in Chatham.
Yep. I was just going to say the one in Chatham.
Yeah. And that was a bad match for me, but I think that's like I think that's our only stinker. But like you just like, you build from each one. And like, we just set the bar higher to start, I feel like.
Yeah, I think maybe I subconsciously saw some of myself in you because I was also an athlete, and I always responded to negative affirmation rather than positive affirmation, and we were also trained by the same person, Danger Boy Derek Wild, who didn't, never sugarcoated anything. If you sucked at something, he just told you straight up, you suck at that. You don't have to suck at that. Here's what you need to do to not suck. And I always responded to that, not just in my wrestling training, but ever since I was a young athlete. If a coach look, you didn't do this properly, do it properly next time. And that wasn't the right decision. I was usually the captain. So it's like, you're the captain, you're leading this team, and you can't be doing that as the captain. And I would always remember the feeling that I felt of failure, of disappointment. And instead of going, oh my God, I don't want to play sports anymore, my response was always, I'm never going to feel that again. I'm never going to make the mistake that makes me feel that way again. And I know, because we're friends and we've ridden down the road, and I know the type of person you are and your character, you remembered that moment of how I made you feel in the locker room and didn't take it on as an insult or a moment that's like, oh my God, how could he do that? You responded to it, okay, I'm never doing that again, and I'm never going to feel that way again.
Yeah. And it also reaffirmed, like, here I am thinking that, oh, I've had this build, I got the belt, as if I deserve the belt. But really, it made me realize I didn't deserve the belt yet. And I think that in wrestling, That's a really big thing. Is a lot of times people get pushed to a certain area where they're not ready for, and it was a really big eye opening experience for me. So just like you said, I never wanted to feel that way again, and I made sure, like, no, you gotta step up because you weren't even
Interesting.
half the guy that you should be.
Yeah. So w- that what did that do to your confidence? Did it affect your confidence negatively in that moment, or did it motivate you in a
Oh,
positive
it
way?
motivates. Yeah,
Yeah.
tell me what I suck at, because then
Yeah.
I will not make that mistake again. And there's like, stuff happens. Like you figure like you we're always learning on the fly. You're figuring out so many things on the fly, and like nothing that you're gonna learn, like even like every show that you go to, you're coming out with something different. And I find like when you make those astronomical mistakes, like I don't even think you just grow like 1%. Like you can get a big jump from that. Like from that happening, I went home and started breaking down like, okay, maybe is it my move set? So
Mm.
then I hone in on, okay, does my move set need to change? Is there enough flow in that? And I start to like really dissect every part. But like I try to use, I call that like a tear down moment,
Mhm.
because I will tear down and dissect myself in order to know where's my opportunity for growth, and knowing that it's not just in one area. So it makes you have to think about everything. And I found that that's something like I still do to this day.
Yeah, I know you do because I've had conversations with you about other aspects of your life rather than just wrestling. And I know you do that when it's getting ready for a job interview or something else that you're passionate and love. You really, really hammer down and like internalize it and go, okay, how do I make myself better for this situation? Which is, I think, why you've been able to last so long in the business and grow and get better. It's reminding me of a conversation I literally just had this past weekend with a couple guys. It was Alexander Del Bruno, and Jeff from Shooting the Indies. They came up to
Yeah.
me and said, "Hey, we were just having a conversation. We said, what is the most booked and most epic match that everybody just books in Ontario? What is the like featured key main event that's happening all the time?" And they're like, well, it has to be Diener and Turva. Like that match has happened so many times. I'm like, oh, well, thanks, guys. Yeah. And then they were putting it over. And I told them, I said, the really neat thing about wrestling Turva is usually in wrestling, you only get better when you punch up. And that's true for life. This is wrestling, is life is wrestling. Like you always want to punch up. So typically you only get better in wrestling when you wrestle someone who's better than you.
Mhm.
So in that first match, I was better than you. I had more experience. You're only 2 years in. So that moment helped you kind of punch up and reflect and get better. But I told Jeff and Del Bruno, I said, the cool thing about wrestling Turva is I learn something every time I wrestle him. Even though I have more experience, it's now gotten to the point where maybe the first time we wrestled, there was this big, you're down here experience and I don't know, just experience and knowledge wise of the business and how it works. And I'm up here. But now we've gotten to the point where I think it's not like it's not there's not a hierarchy anymore. At least I don't feel that way. It's very much like a two-way street where it's like, I'm going to learn something from you. You're going to learn something from me. It's really cool that even if it's just the smallest thing, like, oh, I liked how you grab my tights and turned me in that one moment. Even if it's just that thing, it's like, oh, I learned
Yeah.
something in that match, which is really, I don't know. One, it's a testament and a compliment to you because I've been doing this for like almost 25 years. So I'm learning from
Yeah.
you every time we wrestle. And it's really cool when you get to that point where this hierarchy level doesn't exist anymore and you can just like bounce off each other and learn from one another. I don't even know what I'm trying to say with that other than I think there's a lot of things in life that are like that. And I think it's a testament to you and your talent as a worker.
Well, and it's also a testament to you, though, of allowing me and giving me opportunities to grow too, because that's saying that you have enough trust in me that I'm going to allow you to be able to go out and play. And when we wrestle and play or play with the crowd, whatever it may be, like, man, so many of those things we come to the back and like we haven't thought about. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna pull his tights here. It's like, and then grab your wrist. It's like, no, like you're just being, and like, but we only get that from having time. I feel like, and taking our time, and it's so much, like, that's so addicting to me right now. Like, is
me too.
Getting those little things from people, like, like you try to let that other person play, and then you just play off that play.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's making me think of the match that you said that we had that was a stinker in Chatham, where we decided, and this is the cool thing about deciding to play and like learning in life, you learn so much more from your mistakes than you do from your successes. We often focus on the successful moments because that makes us feel good, or, you know, it's just a good feel good story when you talk about the successes. But man, we learn, human nature is we learn a lot more from our mistakes than we do from our successes. And we decided in that Chatham match, we'll just go out and feel it. And we were like, you were not feeling it that day. It was just it was just off.
Yeah. My life was numb. My whole life was numb. Like, I couldn't feel
it. Right? But like, you got to let yourself, I mean, the cool thing is the way you responded to that. And this is a life lesson. You responded to that match and going, oh man, like I said earlier, I don't want to feel that again. We decided, let's just go out there and feel it and see what happens. And it sucks. Okay. You can respond to this in a couple different ways. I think some people in wrestling and in life, they fall on their face and then they go, oh, I'm not going to feel that way again. I'm not going to let myself just feel it anymore. Now I got to plan out my matches so that I never get that feeling of no safety net and, oh my gosh. Because the problem with feeling it is if you're not feeling it, you gotta pretend or fake it till you make it, or you gotta draw the feeling from something. And if you're not getting it from the crowd, you have to create it, or something has to happen to make that work. And sometimes it just doesn't work. But you responded to that, and instead of saying, okay, now I'm going to be the guy that just plans out everything in my matches, you said, well, that sucked and I don't want to feel that again. But it didn't stop you from still being the guy that goes out there and just feels it. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I found what I realized is I needed to lean into on those moments, I got to lean into the things that I already do well.
I want to take a pause from our conversation to tell you about today's sponsor, ceofit.ca. Their byline is simple: conquer, evolve, overcome. Do you need to conquer your next workout? Or maybe you've hit a plateau in your exercise game and you need to evolve. Or you're starting to find there's some obstacles in the gym that you can't overcome. CEO Fit will help you conquer, evolve, and overcome any obstacle in your way with their top of the line supplements. Whether it's a pre-workout to help you crush that next cardio session, or man, you did crush that cardio session and you need to fill your muscles back up with some high quality protein, we got that for you at ceofit.ca. There's also creatine, vitamins, test boosters, seasonings, and syrups to make your meal not just tasty but healthy too. Oh, I can't forget, they're not just going to help you work out your muscles. They're going to help you work out your brain. They got nootropics for brain function right now at ceofit.ca. Are you a Canadian that you've listened to commercials like this before and then you jump on the website and realize, wait a minute, this free shipping or cheap shipping that they're talking about doesn't apply to me because I'm Canadian. Well, guess what? CEOFit.ca is a proud Canadian company, and we are offering to you Canadian listeners any order over $120, free shipping. Now, you US customers and listeners right now might be going, wait a minute, what about me? Well, I got something for you too. It doesn't matter how big your order is. You might go over there and go, man, I need it all. And you get 10 boxes full of these awesome supplements. It's going to cost you $6. $6. Any size order, anywhere in the United States, $6 in shipping. Not only that, Americans, with the conversion rate, any price that you see on CEOFit.ca, it's going to convert it to US dollars. So everything's going to be even cheaper for my American customers. So you need to conquer, you need to evolve, you need to overcome. Well, there's only one place that you need to go, and that's CEOFit.ca. That's CEOFit.ca.
Even like I run my own personal training business. So many times people are training their clients in order to maximize whatever their weakness is in order to make their strength better. But really, if we kind of look at a lot of focuses in wrestling, like maybe if the guy's a good dancer, maybe he should dance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so
Yeah.
for me, I've always gotten great compliments of being aggressive. So when you're not feeling confident, what'll make you feel confident? Do the things you already do great and do it really well and own it. And then once you do that thing you do well, you own it. I always find from a body language standpoint, it's going to make you feel it. And if it doesn't make me feel it, it'll make you feel it when I'm fighting you. And I know,
Yep.
because I can already hear the, yeah, that's awesome.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's always been my take so it's like cool when X, Y, and Z isn't working, back to A.
Yep. So is that something, where does that come from? Do you have any idea? Like, were you like that as a kid? Did that come from your sports background? Was that the way you were raised by your mom and dad? Like, where does that even come from? Do you even know?
Like my aggressiveness?
No,
Sorry.
No, somebody listening right now was thinking the same thing. Going, where the hell are you going with this, Cody? No. This idea of learning to lean into the positives rather than the negatives, and like, oh, this is what I'm good at. Let me use that as a strategy to overcome this difficult situation, or even just that feeling of, I don't want to feel that again. And if you tear me down, I'm not going to let it stop me. I'm going to keep moving forward anyways. I'm actually going to use it to make myself better rather than make me quit. Where does that come from?
I really don't know
I don't know how to answer that question for myself either. So I know it's a really difficult question, but
I think it comes from potentially, like, in wrestling, you're taught, like, you're broken down and torn down many times. So you're never restarting from zero, because you're slowly gaining a set of skills. And I think it's just a way of like how you learn. I don't know. I don't want to use the word toughen up, like the way you toughen up and receive feedback. Like, I think we just get better at responding to that type of feedback. But I know, like, in a lot of my work life, like, I've always tried to, like, my job has always been to lead teams and things like that. And so when leading a team, I know that everyone's going to have weaknesses. Same with, like, when you're having a match, someone, the one guy might not be as athletic. So, like, his timing and his speed and his athleticism is not going to be there. So I think, like, it's just learning to adapt within different teams to be able to, like, get whatever you need out of it. And then looking within, like, there's, like, even if someone was at a point where, like, they're broke and they have no money and they're all out of options, like, you've got to go to whatever's going to make you money first. And the thing that would make you money is the thing you're already good at. You wouldn't start a new job without that set of skills.
Right. That's a very good point. It's very insightful and leads to where my train of thought was headed, in that you mentioned you are the leader of teams. You have a training business. You've been a personal trainer for a long time. Let's promote the hell out of that just for a second. We'll go down a side street just to say, hey, you should train with Tirva. If people want to train with you, how do they do that?
Yep. So my email's turvatraining@gmail.com, or even on my Instagram @Tyler Tirva. And I do, in the London area, I do like in-person one-on-one training. I also do like online coaching. So like even the thing that got popular during the pandemic, you're working out through your phone screen. So I still have clients that I see 2 to 3 times a week online through the phone. Make them maximize with what they got, the area that they're working in, training towards their goals, and then same with online programming too.
Awesome. So everybody go hit up Tirva, Instagram @Tyler Tirva, and then Tirva Training.
Yeah.
TirvaTraining@gmail.com. Okay. I went down that side street because I want to ask a question about that, because you said, even when you're coaching teams and you're focusing on the positive, is that something that you learned from wrestling? Or, is there things that you learned from wrestling that you've been able to pull into working with your clients?
Absolutely. So many things, like even in a go-to, like you've got a client that's in a pinch time frame wise, like at some point when all of us train, like we've done deck a card types of workouts, or like simple form of like I used to have a benchmark of with my clients, like they'd have to do like 100 squats in one set, which was also something at some points I had to do before you got into ring to do basic training. It eventually built to like 5 sets of 100. So you're doing 500 squats. And so it was like just little benchmarks like that from an actual like training point. But then the things that I've learned in wrestling, so many of them relate to like everything I've ever done, even just like the communicating with people, like just talking to clients, even people like ignoring you or no showing you or whatever it may be. Like, it's just, that's so much a part of life. Or having to talk with promoters that like give you one word answers, and you're like, well, you're paying me to come in to do a job. You kind of need to give me more than 2 words. Like, so it's, I've really like, for one, the people skills and the people aspect of, because as a wrestler, you're running your own business. So I think that's what made me successful in personal training. Like, a lot of people haven't been a personal trainer for 17 years. And like been a personal trainer a year longer than I've wrestled. And for me, it always worked from a schedule standpoint that I can balance it. It's also something I'm completely obsessed with, but I genuinely, like, I love people. That's why I love being at the merch table and chatting with people and learning about their stories and being able to learn their names and then see them show on show. Like, you get just like super genuine relationships with people that you normally wouldn't have met. And then it's just so happens that I'm a wrestler and you showed up to one of my shows. Like, it's kind of, you end up with some neat dynamics. It's really like, it's extremely fulfilling.
There's some wrestlers that just heard you say that and were like, oh my God, what are you talking about? Because so many people hate working the merch table. I am like you. I love it. And forming relationships and meeting these people. I've done that with my Giver for Charity. All my charity stuff has been with wrestling fans that I've met and kids that I've, seen over and over again, and I become friends with them. And then we do something together. It's like so fulfilling. It's hard to describe, but it's super fulfilling. I know you're the same way. Has it always been like that for you? Like, always enjoyed working the table, or was that something that kind of developed over time?
That developed over time. I remember my first few times when I only had my 8x10s, and I remember my 8x10 is super terrible. If you pop it on screen, I'd actually share it with you, but it might freak out some people. But I just look like a bad model that's like trying his hardest. I'm standing. I painted the wall in my bedroom was red. And I remember got my friend at the time to take a picture of me, and I'm like partially pulling down my trunks and trying to. Oh, it's so bad. They're like, I'm sweating now talking about it. It makes me so hot. But
That's great.
yeah, no, the merch table is definitely something I had to develop with. Like, even just saying hi to people was a hard one, because you're like, they don't know who you are. Like, they, especially if you haven't wrestled yet. Like, if you're at the merch table, like anytime before intermission, like, yeah, people will ask you like the craziest things and the best things. Now that I've worked the merch table, like it's my, like, that's some of the best part of my day. I can't wait to come home and just tell the stories of like someone walks up and just goes, so is John Cena your favorite wrestler? Nothing about me and what I'm wearing is suggesting that John Cena is my favorite wrestler. But yeah, it's great.
Oh yeah, I could write you just gave me a brilliant idea that I'm shooting myself in the foot. Is like, I should have recorded all of my merch table conversations over the last 25 years, and I would have a book, like 100% have a book on the crazy, insane conversations that you just have with random wrestling fans. Oh, man, I love it too. So I ask a lot of my guests this, and it's another difficult maybe question to answer, but so many people that are listening to this right now are wrestling fans, and they've always wondered or thought or wanted to get into the wrestling business and maybe be a wrestler, but something stopped them, whether it was like a mental hiccup or the timing or whatever situation. 99 out of 100 people, 999 out of 1,000 people don't think they can actually do it and then go to wrestling school, because it's quite an insane idea when you really break it down, to be like, oh, there's only maybe 100 jobs in the planet to do this job, and for some reason I think I can do it. I'm going to go and I'm going to try it. You're one of those, the one of 1,000 people, or really 1 in a million of people that watch wrestling and then decide, yeah, I'm going to go do this. Like, what led to that decision / made you think that was even possible?
I always joke that I think I started wrestling because I hated myself.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because after your first practice, you know how like you've bumped so many times. Like, I spent 2 days where like, this is how I turn. Like, I could barely rotate. I can barely rotate from my hips, let alone from my neck. But then for me, I had just my college girlfriend had just dumped me of like 2 years, and I had just my buddy brought me to the gym, started working out, and so like I moved. It was so ridiculous. I drove out to Edmonton with everything in my car, and I slept on my buddy's couch, which he's now married to his wife, but I feel bad for them because I lived there for like 2 weeks. But I went to at the time I went to an internet cafe, and for some reason I had nothing going on in my life. So I just Googled wrestling schools. And so I saw all these like real skinny guys wrestling and they were in the Calgary area at the time. And I was like, well, that was like a 3-hour drive. So I was like, I'm not going to do that, even though I was in Edmonton. So I drove all the way home the next day and just took all my stuff and then found a wrestling school locally, and then realized like, hey, I'm just going to do this. Like, I was always athletic. So I think that's what made it like an easier transition. And I remember being nervous, like going up to my first practice. Sorry, we got a side street here. So going into my first practice, there was 2 guys that lived in my town that were going. And so the owner of the school was like, gave me their contact info. So we're messaging each other on MSN, getting it set up. And the guys were like, okay, we'll meet and we'll talk about our hopes and dreams in wrestling at the local Tim Hortons before we go.
Sweet.
So we show up like 2 hours before for wrestling practice. And like I show up and like the one guy is so skinny, like terribly skinny. And the other guy He's a big guy. He looks like he's played football at some point, but like he's probably got like 40 to 60 pounds too much on his body, like from an athlete standpoint. Like, so it couldn't, two polar opposites. And then there's me. Like, I was like, I don't know. I think it was like 170 pounds at the time and 6 foot. So I had like,
but athletic and fit.
Yeah, athletic and fit. Yeah.
Yes.
And then so we get to the school. Skinny guy, he rolls out 10 minutes in and he like hurt his ribs. And then the big guy rolled out 45 minutes in. He's like just dying. Like couldn't catch his wind, but he thinks he broke 2 ribs, landing on the mat, like bumping. So I was like, oh my God. So then, and the practice was only 2 hours.
Yeah.
So then so we do it. And so we're driving home. We go to Tim Hortons again. They like make me end up buying them their drinks because they didn't have money for it. And I was like, okay. And it was my car. They didn't give me gas money.
Oh.
And then I'm the only one that showed up. That was on Tuesday. I was the only one that showed up on Thursday in order to come to class. And I remember walking in and Danger Boy, our trainer's like, well, I'm not shocked you're the only one that showed up. And then that's when
yeah.
And when he told me that, that's when I was like, well, I think I'm in the right place.
Oh yeah, that is awesome. Welcome to the wrestling business. You got guys that are out of shape that can't just indie wrestling 101. Guys that can't do anything, don't pay gas and make you pay for their Tim Hortons. Oh my God, welcome to the business, Tyler Tirva. Oh,
buying hot chocolates for anyone that'll ride with me at this point, I guess.
Yeah, dude, you're so blessed that you got to train with Danger Boy Derek Wild, moving back home and having that so close to you, because so many guys get, hooked up with a scam artist, someone that claims they're a wrestling trainer and they're not, and they take a whole bunch of your money and they take off with it and you just get screwed. I was similar to you. I was blessed that it was 3 hours from my house. I had to make a drive. But and the funny thing is, I don't know if I ever told you this, 2 guys from my hometown also drove with me to wrestling for like my first few months. Neither of those guys lasted in the business and they quit and were done. I'm the one that stuck around. That's hilarious. And both were training with Danger Boy. But when I reflect on it, man, I'm so grateful that I had a quality trainer that didn't BS me, always told me the truth, helped me learn the basics better than anybody, that could have pushed me to get better in so many ways and was so close to me. I didn't have to travel and uproot my life to go do that. I don't know how I would answer this question, but I'm going to ask it of you anyway. What is is there one main takeaway or something that you learned from Danger Boy in your time training with him to get into this wacky world of pro wrestling? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Maybe is an easier one, because I know I could probably give you 10 lessons that I learned from Danger Boy, but what's the first thing?
There's only one that comes to mind, and it's because it's like my most vivid memory. I remember, I think it's I'm acting like I don't remember. I remember.
Yeah.
So I'm in a tournament. I wrestled the opening match.
Okay.
The opening match is I end up getting whipped to the corner. The guy runs in, splashes me in the corner. But I'm wrestling a backyard wrestler that's never been trained. The first splash that he hits me, I hit the corner, but I haven't popped out enough to get hit. I'm in the corner. So he knocks the wind out of me because he was a big guy. And then I've still got to get whipped across and run a couple times. So my next ones don't look as good. I win the match, which is round 1 of a tournament. And so I've got to keep wrestling that night. And I remember I stepped through the curtain. I still can't breathe. I'm holding my ribs because I thought he broke my ribs. Danger Boy throws a shoe at me in front of everybody. There's like 40 people in the locker room. This is like my 3rd month of having matches. So 6 months since my first day of training.
Oh my God.
He yells at me just saying how awful I am, how shitty I am. And it's all from that one movement. but I got my biggest wrestling lesson in it. So he verbally tore me down, ripped me down. He said, "You suck." Like, I remember him just saying, like, you suck. Like, don't you ever disrespect me like this again. When you're out there, you represent me. You represent my training. Like, you need to represent yourself all the time. And like, I know for a lot of people, like, that might break them. It might be a reason they never come back because they can't learn that way. That motivated the hell out of me. I had 3 more matches that night. Yeah. My last night was the main event remember it was against Tyson Dukes. It was 20 minutes, all on the fly. Didn't talk about one thing in advance. And like, I couldn't have did better the rest of the night. I wrestled RJ City in the next round. I wrestled Rip Impact in the finals. And with Rip, like, I had a match and a half. So I had like 12 minutes to go over a 15-minute match in the finals. And then it was like quick turnaround, wrestle Tyson on the fly. Like, that's a big night. I drank 4 energy drinks that night, by the way. My pee was green.
And you're 3 months in?
Yeah, 3 months in.
Oh my God. Wow.
June 2008, LLW in Hamilton.
Yeah.
And like, but Danger Boy had such an expectation for me when I came into wrestling, because he was retiring that month.
Right.
Initially.
Yeah.
And so I only had 3 months of matches to almost like get prepared. And then he was wrestling me in a match. So what I learned the most from him, though, is like, you've got to always represent yourself up here.
Yeah.
And you're always bringing your best. And he wasn't yelling at me because of me. He's yelling at me because people are in the crowd paying to see me.
Yep.
Like, there's a lot more lessons than just the words that he said to me. And I didn't always get those in the moment, but I've got a week to think about this until my next show.
Right.
You know? And I get to go to practice, and he gets to reiterate it again. Hey, this is why I went over everything with you. I also had the ride home for him to tell me all about the match. Like, like it was, but like, that is why I got addicted to wrestling, though. There was never a moment that he spoke to me where I ever thought, this guy doesn't have my best interests in mind.
Yes.
And that's what is so true and genuine about him. And that's why I also agree with you. Like, there's no one in this world I'd rather have been trained by.
Yeah.
Because I got everything that I ever needed. And even to this day, like, I can pick up that phone whenever.
Same. Yeah. Wow. It's such a good life lesson, right? To like, you're representing, you got to represent yourself up here in everything that you do. And you're representing the other people that came before you and that helped you get to that. I learned the same lesson from him, and I try to take that into everything that I do. And for some people, they crack under that pressure, right? When they think about, oh man, I'm representing this person, and now I got to represent myself, and I better do it this way. And it's like, it can be too much pressure for some people. I've always been the person that I usually deliver better under pressure. Give me the pressure, I'll deliver. I'll show you. And I know you're the same. Which is maybe a good transition into some wrestling talk that I wanted to ask you about here. We've been talking a lot about life, but man, for those of people that are listening to this, and a lot of listeners, I have, Sean Spears on the podcast, and they're like, oh, I know Sean Spears because he was in NXT, he was in WWE, he was in AEW, and this guy's been all over the world. He's been on television for a long time. And then they see the name Tyler Tirva, and they're like, oh, I think I've heard that name, but they're not super familiar because you haven't had a big contract and wrestled on TV. However, you have wrestled for the WWE, you have wrestled for TNA Impact Wrestling, you have wrestled for AEW. You've been in some very high pressure situations on television with some main event talent. You've been there and you've done that. You've done a lot that I don't think people are won't be familiar with. And you did it all at a fairly young age in the business. Was your of those three main companies I listed, was WWE the first one? Was that the first like big company that you got a break with and did something with?
Yeah, it was May 2010, May 23rd,
Okay.
2010. So I was 2 years and 2 months into the business, and I wrestled on SmackDown.
That's going to do it for another episode of Wrestling is Life is Wrestling with Cody Diener, part 1 with Tyler Tirva. How's that for a cliffhanger for you? Man, you want to hear exactly what this SmackDown experience was like for Tyler Tirva, as well as some tryout experiences with the WWE, some Performance Center tryouts, some just everything that this guy has done in wrestling. He's done a lot. We'll talk more about that in part 2 next week. If you were like, Cody, why do you do this to me? This cliffhanger. I want to hear this SmackDown story right now. Well, guess what? You can. Head on over to patreon.com/Cody Diener. Sign up for a free trial, and you can get the full conversation next week early, ad-free right now. The full raw footage, both video and audio, over at patreon.com/Cody Diener, as well as a bonus story. The bonus story with Tyler Tirva is all about a weekend that him and I had, just a typical independent wrestling weekend, but the average civilian will not believe it. If you you're just an average person, you've got your 9 to 5 job, and you don't fully understand what a weekend can be like, the average weekend of a professional wrestler that's doing some indie wrestling and just trying to make a name for themselves. It's an average weekend for Tyler Tirva and I, but I just want you to listen to what this average weekend is like, and it will blow your mind. We talk about all of that. It was just, an average weekend for us, but not so much for the average person. Go listen to that right now. It's up at patreon.com/Cody Diener. That's a bonus story with my buddy Tyler Tirva. Support Tyler Tirva. Follow him on his social media at Tyler Tirva. While you're at it, why don't you put the hashtag sign Tyler Tirva up on your social media as well? Because this guy is just too good to not be on television each and every week, in my humble opinion. It's one of the reasons why I brought him on the show. This guy's my road wife. I love him to death. He's one of my best friends. I think he's one of the best people I've ever met in wrestling. But if this conversation that we had this week and the one that we have next week can open some people's eyes to Tyler Tirva, and just they can learn about another wicked awesome professional wrestler that they maybe never heard about before, then man, I feel like I've at least done a little bit of service to the professional wrestling world and the professional wrestling fans to introduce you to the one and only Mr. Young, Fit, and Stupid Pretty Tyler Tirva. So support him. Go to @Tyler Tirva. And if you want some personal training, I mean, you heard some life advice from Tyler Tirva today, and he's dishing out that life advice also as a trainer. Just go to @Tyler Tirva on a social media. You can learn how to get a hold of him and do some personal training and nutrition advice from Tyler Tirva. This guy's jacked, and he won't just give you some workout advice, man. He'll sprinkle in some life advice as well, which is why he's the perfect guest for this show. Speaking of life advice, I have a second career where I travel around, I go into schools, I do youth events, and I've been super busy recently. I've got a full pack schedule coming up, and I'm loving every single minute of it. And if you would like to bring me to your school or your event before the end of this school year, I do have some openings still available. You can hit me up, chrisgrayspeaks@gmail.com, or you can just head on over to chrisgrayspeaks.com. That's Gray with an A. There's a booking form there if you want to inquire about, bringing me to your school, to your event, see what it's all about. Hit me up over there. If you're an indie promoter and you want to book me on your show, the cool thing is, yeah, I'm wrestling on TV. Yeah, I wrestle for TNA. Yeah, I'm the people's choice. Yeah, the people have spoken and they are deciding everything that they want me to do in my wrestling career. And I'm having a lot of fun doing that. You'll see more of that tonight. If you're listening to this when this episode drops on Thursday, tonight, all over the world on the TNA Wrestling Impact television show. I'll be letting the people make some more choices in my career. But I would love if you as a promoter chose me to come to your show. You can do that right now. Go to book Cody at CodyDiener.com and hit me up. I've had some promoters getting a hold of me recently. My schedule is busy, but I've been able to find some openings in my schedule for some of you promoters, which makes me happy. I'll be going to some new places, traveling up and down the road, working the merch table. Me and Tirva talk all about that, and we both love it. We enjoy it. I love working the table. I love indie wrestling. I will do it till the wheels fall off. If you'd like to bring me to your show, do a seminar maybe before the event, just bring my love of professional wrestling to your event. Like I said, hit me up, book Cody at CodyDiener.com. Head on over to cameo.com/CodyDiener if you want a personal video for you or a loved one. Go to prowrestlingtees.com/CodyDiener. Get yourself a Cody Diener t-shirt, including the Wrestling is Life is Wrestling t-shirt. And make sure you hit up my sponsors, restwhendead.ca and ceofit.ca. Whew, this has been a good episode. I'm super stoked for part 2 with Tyler Tirva. You should be too. So I'm looking forward to you guys coming back next week for part 2 with my buddy Tyler Tirva, because next week we will learn the same thing that we learn every week on this show, and that is that wrestling is life is wrestling. We'll see you next week, guys.
Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life is wrestling.